Is it going to reconnect to the same chat? Ah, there we go. I'm connected, am I? I'm very sorry about that, folks. My internet just decided it wasn't going to be connected anymore. So I do apologise for that. Are we still here? So I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted by modern technology, is that I would love some questions. And if any of them happen to be good enough, not good enough, but if any of them happen to be a bit long-winded, or perhaps would make an interesting Ask Me Anything type question, I'll have to remember to write them down and also add them to my list of questions for the video on Friday. But feel free to fire away. I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but I don't know if this is now going to actually upload as a separate live stream. The Discord bot decided to announce that I had uploaded a new video, yet I hadn't actually disconnected OBS either, so I'm not 100% sure what was going on there. I've noticed I've been having a problem with my internet connection. Sometimes it just cuts out for no reason. Oh, these are great questions. What's your favourite kill team? What's your favourite model of all time? What's the longest you've ever spoken about dry brushing? Oh, for goodness sake, not again. If money wasn't an issue, what model would you buy? I get asked that one a lot. What primers do I use? Ah, that's an interesting one. I did do a priming video, didn't I? I'll let you come out with a bunch of questions and then I'll start answering them, because obviously I don't want you to kind of, you know, lose any stride. Oh, what's my opinion on recast? Now that's definitely one I'll answer here rather than on a video. Although actually I don't know if I get people riled up on a video. That'll certainly make my viewership goes up. It's also quite a complicated subject as well. I think me and Wayne touched on that a little bit on a live stream the other day when we were talking about 3D printing. Well, I'll tell you what would be handy actually. If somebody could, anybody who's on the Discord server could also send me these questions as a private message. It means I've got them saved, so I don't have to try and look back through the chat to answer them again on Friday on the Ask Me Anything. Oh, that's a great one. What other questions what other games would I dabble in? See, the other thing as well is the reason why I'm not answering them straight away is you put them up. It gives me a minute to have a think about an answer. Not that I'm making the answer up. It's just have a think about, rather than just giving you the first thing that comes to mind. I actually have a think about it and give you an interesting answer. That's also truthful, and not just, you know, for argument's sake, the game one. I could just say, oh, D&D, and then that's it. No, I want to think about it and think about the other games that I've heard of. Right. So let's start at the top. See, what's your favourite kill team? That's an interesting one. Now, for starters, I haven't tried as many kill teams as I would like to have tried. So originally, I would as a knee-jerk answer to that question, I would say the Blood Angels Space Marines that I have. That's just purely because of, you know, I'm a Blood Angel Space Marine 40k player. Well, when I do actually play 40k. So that would be my knee-jerk reaction. But I think there's also, I mean, for power that I've seen, I think my Gene Stealers, my Tyranids, they're nasty. I mean, they can be really vicious and really quick. I've only used them once against Tau, and yeah, they were wrecking the board. They were very, very fast and nasty. So for power, I would probably say my Gene Stealers. Excuse me. My most interesting games that I've played. I'm not sure about that. I mean, the mission that me and Reese played the other day, last week, that was my AdMech against her Tau, and that was a really fun game. I mean, I did keep forgetting about Mechanicals, which apparently every AdMech player plays. But on the whole, that was a really fun game. So I've got to say, the most fun game I've played is with my AdMech. But I would also say that I am most, funny enough, because I'm painting them, I'm most looking forward to trying my Guard. Just generally because I've never played Guard before, and it's kind of like the first kill team that I've particularly thought about. I've gone out, I bought 3 boxes of Guardsmen, and I built a kill team from scratch. No help from GW. I was looking at the rules and looking at weapon options, and I built a kill team that I think should be all well-rounded, but also that my specialists are built specifically for the specialism that they have, if that makes sense. So I'm most looking forward to trying my Guard. So hope that's an interesting answer. What's my most favourite model of all time? See, that's a difficult question in itself, just generally because most of my enjoyment from this hobby comes from painting. So just generally, any model that gives me a large amount of pleasure in painting is going to be very high on my list anyway. So that's a really, really hard question for me to answer. I would say I try and think of one rules wise that I thought, oh, that's an amazing model, but in general, no models have really jumped out at me. I think for now, certainly at this moment, models that I've ever done, I think the favourite model I've ever painted was the War Games exclusive Mephiston model. What do you call him? The Lord of Death. That possibly is one of. I look at that model, I think, yeah, that was a really good purchase. I just think in general that it's a model that really does look the part on the tabletop. And he's only seen the tabletop once, but yeah, I really did like that model in general. I'm trying to think if there's any models that I've seen just generally I just find just really nice. And I can't think off the top of my head, nothing really stands out at me as being an amazing model. There are some very, very good models, but nothing really stands out as being the best in terms of my opinion. It's a really tough question. You know, I might add that to the list, just in general, and I'll just browse GW's website. I'll browse Forge World, and although to be fair, I'm not really a Forge World fan anyway. I might browse some other third-party people, see if I can find something that's really, really, really grabs my attention. What's the longest I've what's the longest I've ever spoken about dry brushing? I think about 20 minutes on Monday. That was an easy question. Yeah, Jesus. Although actually, I do believe I did a 20-minute video on dry brushing as well. So, and that might actually be longer than 20 minutes. So, I think I did a video. I know I certainly did one way back when I did a video on dry brushing the Blood Angel Chaplain model. I don't know if I've left it on my channel. I'm not 100% sure, because I think it was before I was taking this seriously, and so some of those videos are just really embarrassing to leave on where they were, because I know that I could just do so much better, and I'm not one for just rehashing the same old videos. You know, I have 2 videos on dry brushing on the same channel. It just doesn't make any sense. So if ever I remake a video, the old one would probably get taken down, because any of the information that I will add will be included with any information that was in the old video. So if money wasn't an issue, what model would you buy? Again, my knee-jerk reaction is Smaug from the Lord of the Rings line from Games Workshop. And I mean, to be fair, a lot of my answers will be Games Workshop related, because currently, I mean, you guys find me only in my 3rd year of being in the hobby. So if you imagine, I mean, most people start the hobby in their teens. So before you know, by the time you hit 20 years old with that kind of with disposable income to add to your hobby, you've probably gone through Games Workshop enough to kind of know exactly what you like, and then you start looking elsewhere for other things that you know that are out there, and you start buying maybe more expensive things. But currently in my hobby life, I'm still fairly new in relation to, you know, the timeline of one's hobbying. So most of my knowledge, I mean, I also have the benefit of having the internet in front of me, so I mean, you know, it's easier for me to find other things. But Wargames, the Wargames Lord of Death was actually the very first model that I bought that wasn't a Games Workshop model. Not the first that I'd painted that wasn't Games Workshop, because I had done some Dystopian Wars as well, but it's definitely the first model that I purchased that wasn't from Games Workshop. So yeah, I mean, my knee-jerk reaction does say Smaug, but again, he's a resin model, so not majorly interested in that. But funnily enough, I think if I had all the money in the world to burn, what I'm most looking forward to, and you also get them from Forge World, are actually Realm of Battle boards. Funnily enough, they're not necessarily models to play with. It's scenery, and I think the reason why I say that is that scenery, on the whole, in terms of where do you put your hobby money, if you're limited in terms of what you can purchase, scenery tends to get put on the back burner, because scenery is expensive for what it is, considering maybe you don't necessarily you can build an army on limited funds, and every time you play, no matter where you're playing, you're probably going to be playing with your army that you've purchased. Whereas it comes to scenery, especially on a limited budget, even if you do purchase scenery, you're probably not going to be taking it to your local club or down to Games Workshop. So you're not going to be using your scenery unless you're playing at home. And so theoretically, you could argue the scenery doesn't get done until you've finished your army. And again, consider I'm only 3 years into my own hobby, so my army is far from complete in terms of, if I was still playing 40k on a regular basis, I would probably still be buying models for my Blood Angels. So yeah, I think if I had money to burn, in terms of I could still purchase my own models as well, considering, you know, the question is if money's no object, yeah, I'd probably throw a ton of cash at all of the Realm of Battle boards, just purely to make really nice looking scenery, including the Forge World ones, which will probably be bent, but you know, that's Forge World for you. And Wayne agrees, scenery is last for you. Yeah, I mean, I mean, all the scenery that I have that you see on the show is, you know, down to Kill Team. In fact, I do have a ton of stuff that was used before me and Reese started streaming. Reese had some scenery, some of the old buildings and stuff, and we also have some coffee cans and bits of furniture that we used as scenery. I even built myself, I think I have it knocking around somewhere. I actually built a building out of cardboard. I wonder if I can find it, if it's to hand. Ah, there it is. Hang on a minute. There we go. This is a blast from the past. Let's clean that off. This piece of scenery here. This is the first thing I did when I did build this out of when I was about a year into the hobby, and basically we move this around. Genuinely, it's made of cardboard. That's literally all it is, cardboard box. And so I cut myself bits of cardboard, stuck them together in a building shape, and then literally just covered it in building plaster. I painted it grey and dry brushed it, and I even used the offcuts to build a pile of rubble in the middle. But my nephew, he added the extra bits and painted some of those up, threw some green down, some of the grass he put, and some of the graffiti. Just turn it the way so you can see it. Graffiti was added by him. But yeah, so I mean, that is literally a cardboard box, and I just covered it in wall plaster. And it's solid, and I mean, that's 2 years old now. But yeah, I mean, that's the sort of terrain that I was using when I was new to the hobby. But now, obviously, with Kill Team, I bought the box set, and I bought a couple of bits of scenery. But yeah, a long-winded answer to a fairly simple question. Yeah, money was no object. I would buy scenery. What primers do I use? Normally, I prefer to use Vallejo primer through my airbrush. And I use Vallejo because it's readily available to me. However, I am known to use rattle can primers for when my airbrush is busted with a broken nozzle, like it is now. And I buy a £5 rattle can. Well, it's a little bit over £5, and I buy it from either the Range or B&M. And I believe it's the Plastico stuff. I'll go and have a look in a second because I've almost finished the black on this guy, and then we'll move on to the Death Leaper. Just make sure I've got a nice even coat. Let's just double check, make sure that we're all covered. There we are. Let's have a gander at this. Right. Now, obviously, in my priming video, I actually went out and bought one of these. It's the Plasticoat Primer Super. It cost me about £5 or so. So that's what I use if my airbrush isn't working. But if it is, I use the acrylic polyurethane surface primer from Vallejo, and I buy this because it's easy to get to. However, I do know a lot of people, if they're talking about airbrush primers, will say use the Badger Styrolens stuff, which I would do, but it's more expensive and it's from Badger, which can bump postage costs up. So again, I'm still juggling funds when it comes to things like that, so sometimes I kind of just have to make do with the cheaper option. I mean, I would like to try some of the Badger stuff and compare it with the Vallejo stuff at some point, but yeah, those are the primers that I use. I'm going to skip that question for the time being, because I'll talk about it maybe as a general conversation. So, Chaos or For the Emperor? Ooh. You see, that depends. I'm not a massive fluff reader, and I also don't necessarily care much for the background of fluff when it comes to painting an army. So I mean, I won't not paint Emperor's Children because they're heretics. I won't jump at the chance of painting Custodes because they're, you know, the right hand of the Emperor. It's not really something I really consider. Now, I do remember I did read the first Heretic book. I do have the Warhammer Legends collection. I'm picking that up as that's coming out. It's still going. But I did kind of feel sorry for Logor when I read that book. Because in my opinion, I mean, it read to me like the Emperor just dealt with everything completely wrong. When it comes to that kind of stuff, he just, you know, he basically embarrassed a really powerful person. And, you know, what's a really powerful person going to do when they get embarrassed? So I kind of blame the Emperor for the heresy. But yeah, I'm not particularly a loyal person, but I wouldn't say I was against. I kind of fully understand, actually, when it comes to the in 40k, that there is no good guys and bad guys. It's all just various levels of badness. So I'm not particularly loyal or a heretic. You like the fluff, it's just finding the time to read it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tough. You know, I mean, those books can be pretty heavy sometimes. To just be able to just sit down and spend some time reading, or just read. You can't just read a couple of pages and be done with it. You kind of have to read like whole chapters at a time and make sure there's not too much time between each chapter. I've tried that a couple of times. I've tried reading of the Legends collection. The second book is Ultramarines. It's basically, I believe, it's telling the story of the betrayal of Calth. I believe. I don't know exactly, but I've tried reading that book a couple of times, and yeah, I end up putting it down for a few weeks at a time, and then I try and pick it back up again, and I'm just lost. Yeah, so it'd be quite difficult. And then started trying to read Master of Mankind, and I've got through the first couple of chapters, but yeah, trying to find time to just sit down and read is almost impossible. The collection does finish soon. Yeah, I know. I've got a book waiting for me at my newsagents, waiting for me to pick it up. Probably tomorrow I'll pick that up. Don't even know what book it is, to be fair. I know that the last one was, what is it, that's still up there unopened actually. It was number, I don't know what issue it was 39, The Death of Antagonist. Yeah, I can't even read people's names when it comes to those. So, yeah. Heresy Audio, Sprints, thank you for joining us. Heresy audiobooks whilst painting, building, or even driving is how you get through it. Yeah, I hear a lot of people use the audiobooks. It's also how you find out what people's real names are. I had no idea what Guilliman's how to pronounce Guilliman until I heard it on the Gathering Storm trailer. It's like, it's Robute, right? Okay. But yeah, it's tough going getting the reading those books, and I don't have Amazon or Audible or whatever it is, so I don't currently have access to audiobooks at the moment, and yeah. What's one of the other questions? I know I missed out that question. What other game systems would you have a dabble into? Okay, so like I said when you first put that question down, is Dungeons and Dragons is my knee-jerk reaction. It's something I really do want to go into, or at least have a look at. Partly down to Critical Role. I love watching that. In fact, I'm halfway through the latest episode at the minute. But I think me and Wayne were having a discussion about this on one of the live shows last week. I think the biggest boom is I did come across Vin Diesel playing D&D. I think it was Celebrity D&D or something. And I came across that video at some point. I watched that and thought, wow, this is amazing, and then I found out that Critical Role existed and then started watching that, and it just kind of sparked my imagination. But I also understand that actually that I haven't really jumped at D&D because I understand that, you know, you find the wrong DM and it will just ruin it for you. So that's one game I would like to get into. But tabletop wargaming, I gave Bolt Action a try and I loved the system, but I didn't really like the historical wargaming side of it. I'm not really a historical fan, so that kind of died rather quickly for me. And there are a few games I wouldn't mind giving a try, just purely because I just wondered how they work. There was what's it called? Is it Gaslands? I hear Tabletop Minions talking about Gaslands a lot. It's like, that sounds interesting, using, you know, a game where you can actually play with matchbox cards. So that sounds cool. Other than that, there's not really a huge amount of games that I'm really interested in playing. But again, like I said, I mean, I'm only 3 years into the hobby. I haven't got the kind of the inbuilt social structure that a lot of gamers used to have, you know, especially when you get into wargaming, you know, in high school, and kind of collectively you're kind of testing the waters out from various different games. Collectively you'll leave school at the weekend, or, you know, maybe a half term or something, and you'll come back and you've tried this new game. Where for me it's mostly local club. I'll see a new game, or I'll see something at the local gaming store. But on the whole, you know, I'm a bloke. When I go shopping, I walk in, get what I want, and walk back out again. I don't tend to browse too often. So it's a bit hard for me to kind of decide, oh, I fancy giving that a go, because I don't really tend to see many people playing. I don't really have a massive discussion with people about, you know, games that they tried recently. Because generally I just don't have that kind of structure around me to have that kind of captive audience. But you know, Wayne's nearly 30 years into the hobby. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I mean, if you picked up hobby as a teenager, you're having around your mate's house, or you know, around school dinner table or something, and you just generally have a chat about this new game that you've had, and also your imagination runs wild with you as well. I think that definitely helps when it comes to these kind of games, especially when you're learning them out. Now, it's not saying I don't have an imagination, but it just means that, you know, I don't sit there, you know, in the playground and I play them out. You know, I don't run around a playground pretending to be a space marine or something to really spark that fire. And but yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, actually, I almost forgot about it. Thinking about, you know, playing D&D, there is something that comes out that people do seem to play. That kind of, certainly from the outside, kind of looks like, oh, it looks like a tabletop war game version of D&D would be Frostgrave. I mean, I wouldn't mind giving that a go. But again, it's all about, you know, having the time to do it, and you know, taking time away from something I know that I do like, which obviously is, well, for now, Kill Team. So Dicky Mo, is that a butt plug I'm working on? No, it's not. I mean, that would be quite painful, wouldn't it? Let's have a look. Chris Baker, Robute Chamon. Chamon! Have I missed anything? You heard about Frostgrave through Tabletop Minions. I like the look at that too. I mean, what I do like the idea of, I did hear that it is designed as a campaign kind of thing. And so it's almost like, it's like an RPG, but as a tabletop war game. I mean, from the outside, that's what it looks like. So, you know, it's much more, you know, it kind of fires the imagination up a little bit more than maybe 40k does. Perhaps it's a bit more immersive. I mean, that's not to say that 40k isn't immersive, but it certainly has a lot of rule sets. It's more strategy gaming, so this unit will move here to destroy that unit and stuff. It's kind of like, there's not really, for me, it's quite hard to kind of get into a story with 40k. And to an extent, the same with Kill Team as well. It's not really, as much as I'd like to add some character to the Kill Team itself. Yeah, it's not really. I would like to find something that has a bit more story to it. You're only a month back into the hobby after 17 years, so sticking to 40k and Kill Team for now. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I mean, for me, it does seem that 40k and Kill Team, 40k AOS is it's a very safe bet, isn't it? You know, you'll probably find plenty of people around to play it if you needed to. So yeah, definitely, it's definitely worth sticking to. Where are we going? Oh, the chat's about to disappear. Let's have a look. What's my opinion on the new GW Funko Pop? To be honest, my reaction to that is fairly boring, to be honest. I'm not fussed. You know, a lot of people would like to rage and moan about them, and think, oh, it's ridiculous to turn in 40k into, you know, some kiddie friendly thing, or you know, whatever. I mean, whatever knee-jerk reaction you want to have to them. But for me, it's, well, whatever. If that floats your boat. I know that they're particularly collectible items. There are people that collect them, and I'm sure that, you know, I mean, Funko's been going on. I did actually watch a documentary. Oh God, I actually watched a documentary on Funko at one point, and I think that company's been around for years. I mean, possibly since the 50s, I want to say. So, I mean, yeah, they've got a long history as a company. So, yeah, I mean, they're certainly collectible items. Will probably hold their value. Keep them in the box, leave them on a shelf, don't let them get damaged and all that sort of stuff. Honestly, I'm not that fussed about them. I probably won't buy them. I'm not interested in owning them. But I certainly don't have any reaction to them. I neither love them nor hate them. You know, some people will like them, and so, you know, I'm kind of a live and let live kind of guy anyway. It's the same reaction that people had with the Warhammer Adventures. The rage that went on about those, about making 40k kid friendly, it was like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, why not? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if my daughters see me painting all of these models and say, oh, I want to do some Space Marines, okay, fair enough. What colour do you want to do them? I want to paint them as My Little Pony. Go for it. You know, why not? You know, I mean, if it gets her in the hobby, I mean, she'll grow into understanding what the rest of the story's about eventually, if she sticks around. But yeah, for now, why don't you, you know, whatever floats your boat in terms of story. I'm not that fussed about them. So yeah, and even then, it was a really long explanation for something that was a really simple answer. Yeah, for sure, I used to play, and the heresy stuff got me back into it. Now, you see, again, I'm not that into 30k, to be fair. I'm not that interested in hobby. I mean, as a Blood Angels player, that's where I love the fluff. When I was researching into the hobby, it was the Blood Angel fluff that really got me going. But the 30k stuff, I'm really not into it. Chris is going to buy the Funko Pops and paint them Sons of Medusa. Go for it. Why not? Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if it floats your boat, then go for it. You know, it's not like, you know, it's not like I judge you as a person for owning Funko Pops. I mean, they're certainly they're collectible items, and I imagine that, you know, hold on to them for, you know, for you want to paint yours, but if somebody wanted to buy those up, put them in a vacuum for the next 50 years, they'll be worth a fortune, because they won't be about anymore. Not the company, I just mean they won't be making them for the next 50 years. You know, they'll do a line of these Space Marine Funko Pops. They might do some more in the future if they sell well, but they won't continually make these first four of them, and they'll probably be worth a fortune in the future. And if that's what you want to buy them for as an investment, then yeah, you buy them because you like the look of them, and it's your taste. What models do I disliked to build and paint? On the whole, anything made of resin. I absolutely hate resin in general. Funny thing is, obviously earlier on I said that my favourite model was the Wargames exclusive Lord of Death, and I think it comes down to most resin that I work with has softer details. They're not as sharp as plastic, and generally just resin is a pain in the backside to put together. I really don't enjoy building resin models, and they tend to need more work just to get them ready to paint. in terms of cleaning off all of the gates and the various you know, bits between different bits, so that the resin can just get inside the mold. Generally anything made of resin. But I tell you what, the worst models to put together, funnily enough, because I'm painting them, are Tyranid resin models. There is something about those models that they do not like staying together, and you need about 4 arms just to put them together, which is really annoying. In fact, even on one of the live shows where I was painting one of these guys, the damn tail fell off. And yeah, resin models, I don't like resin. That's why I'm not a fan of Forge World either. Because just in general, I don't think, you know, I don't think the models are that good in terms of detail for me to be spending the kind of money that they want for them. And I've left the last question till last because I'm sure that you'll want to get involved in the chat on that one as well, because it is quite the conversation starter. I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. God, it made me sound like a TV advert. Come back after the break to find out what Will thinks about recasts. I might leave it. I'm gonna do this side and make sure that he's got all of his black done. Then I will take a couple of minutes just to put a brush down anyway, because I've had a brush in my hand for the last 45 minutes or so, so I want to put it down for a minute and take a breather anyway. So I will get to that question in a minute. So that's the next one, but if anybody's got any other questions they want to ask, I do have my Ask Me Anything coming up on Friday, which I will premiere on Friday, so I'll be filming it during the week. Normally I say that you would have had until the Friday just gone to get any questions into me, but because I'm live streaming now, it's kind of the last opportunity to get some more questions in if anybody's got any. I don't know if anybody on the Discord has sent me a private message of the questions that Wargamer has sent me. It would be handy if somebody does that for me, otherwise I'll forget. It depends on how long the chat goes on. I mean, I could scroll back and just copy and paste them across on my computer after the show, but yeah. So almost done this, and then I'll just move the camera up for a few minutes while I rest before I get on with the dry brushing, which of course is my favourite thing to do with a model. Oh, that's so mean of you to say, Chris. Who would win in a fight between Chuck Norris and Captain Slam? So the funny thing is, this is where the joke's on you though, because I would turn around and say, Captain Slam is Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is the only man in the world who can be two people at the same time. So yeah, I'm not stopping the show. I'm just having a bit of a break. I've got my drink here, and I'll have a bit of a puff. But yes, let's get on with the question that Wargamer did ask me, and I'll probably cover this a little bit on. I don't think I'll cover this one on my Ask Me Anything, I might do, because it'd probably get people riled up and everybody will start having a real tizwas about it. Chuck Norris says he's real and Slam is A, broken, and B, not real. Yeah, so what do I think about recasts? See, this is an interesting one, because, I mean, straight up, recasting a model and selling it is wrong. Okay, it's one, it's illegal, and two, yeah, it's wrong. You don't just copy a model and flog it. So, number one there, that's what I think about recasting. However, when people talk about recasters, I think there are two camps about people who are recasting. You've got the people who will straight up recast a model, recast a bit, and then flog it. Yeah, and yeah, I don't agree with any of that. Having said that, I myself have attempted to recast hand flamers for my death company. I did a terrible job at it, but yeah, I've attempted to recast some weapon options. I've been tempted. I haven't done it because I haven't got the ability to do a decent enough job. But I've been attempted. I've been tempted to recast scenery so that I can make as much scenery as I want. So there is a bit of a grey area there, because in terms of recasting a whole set of scenery, reproducing it for myself, painting it up and using it so that I don't have to spend any money on any more scenery, I mean, that's a bit of a grey area, and how do I feel about that? It's a bit tough, because I know that, you know, recreating an entire set. Take what's the set called that has the new one that has the statues on the outside. I mean, if the chat catches up before I find it, then fair enough. But obviously, I am looking myself as well, just to try and remember just exactly what it's called. I know it's under the city ruins bit. The Sector Imperialis Sanctum is the one. Now, obviously, that's a big set, and it's worth 45 quid. And the other one is called the Sector Imperialis Basilicanum. I have no idea how to say that. But yeah, they're expensive kits. The other one is 60 quid. That's more expensive. And it has, you know, some building to it, and it has well, how many sprues? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sprues worth of terrain, and it's worth 60 quid. Now, if I'm creating some scenery, if I'm creating a game board, that's an interesting one. Maybe I want to fill the board up with a whole host of statues and buildings, and build massive giant cathedral. If you think about it, you know, you want to build a massive cathedral just as a centerpiece for personal use. You're not going to flog it. You just, for personal use. Something to use as somewhere to store your minis. It would look awesome, wouldn't it? So yeah, I think there's a grey area as whether you can do that in terms of morally, whether you can do that to save yourself some money. And I'll be interested to know what other people's thoughts are in the chat, so feel free to jump in the chat and have discuss this, because I don't know how I feel about recasting, because I've done it myself. I've attempted to make some hand flamers, and there was a bit missing from my Storm Raven when I bought it second hand. And so I just used, it was one of the thrusters on the ends of the wings, so I cast myself another one. So I mean, doing that to save yourself some money, I don't think there's a real problem with that, because I mean, essentially, it's really not much different than buying second-hand models, is it? Because you're not, GW is not going to get any money for your army. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying a second-hand model. So, and GW doesn't profit from any of that. The person who originally paid for it obviously paid GW for it. And Chris, you agree? It's for personal use. It's not necessarily a bad thing. No. But what I'm interested in, okay, so here's an interesting kind of flip on personal use. What if now you've got an entirely brand new army, right? The models themselves you've purchased, but perhaps you're entering armies on parade, and the scenery that you want to use is GW buildings, okay? But you only buy one set of buildings, brand new, right? So just this is all hypothetical, of course. You buy yourself one set of buildings, you recast the sprues in whatever format, maybe some resin or whatever, and then cut yourself up all of those recast buildings and build yourself a custom building and enter that into armies on parade. GW make enough profit, they didn't need to worry about getting out of... if GW make enough profit, they don't need to worry about getting a cut of second-hand sales. No, I don't mean that they want to get a cut of second-hand sales. But what I'm saying is that recasting, buying a second-hand model is, they don't get any money from that. So theoretically, using the same logic, recasting some individual bits, maybe an extra set of legs or a weapon option from, remake, from models that you have purchased. It's not much different than going out and just buying a second-hand model. You still have to pay for the resin that you're using, in as much as you would have to pay for a second model if you just purchased that off of eBay or something like that. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that GW want to make a profit on it. I'm just saying it's the same logic behind it. But yeah, what about building yourself? I would say make a good job of it and don't tell anyone. Yeah, make a good job of recasting your scenery. I mean, that's the thing. But then the other thing as well is that, the problem is at what point does recasting become a problem in terms of, what if you only purchase, let's say for argument's sake you play a guard army, and I think this might be, a mate of mine has a load of Lehman Russ and recast newer Forge World turrets for them, because he prefers, so at least he paid for one, and therefore his personal use, so I guess it's not that bad. Recasting a weapon option, I think that's within tolerable. But what if you were playing, say, a guard army, and you've got tons and tons of these guys, right? Loads of them. You got 200 of these guys. They're your army, but you only ever purchased one box of guard infantrymen. All of the characters and the vehicles you purchased, but guard, because you wanted so many, you only ever purchased one box and then recast an entire army's worth of models. I mean, where does recasting become wrong in terms of doing that? I mean, it's an interesting moral question. It's not necessarily that there's a right and a wrong answer, because the guard army is yours. Now, obviously, you need to take intent into consideration. You never intend to sell the army. They're yours. And if you ever stopped playing guard, or if you ever decided that you didn't want them anymore, you do not intend to sell them. You intend to just throw them away because they're all recast. Okay. So we get rid of the problem of it being illegal because you're selling recast models. But what if you've recast an entire troop choice? Your entire army is just recast models. I mean, that's I don't know how I feel about that, and I mean this is why I'm turning it into a discussion more than just straight up answering the question, because again, I talk about my knee-jerk reaction. My knee-jerk reaction is, no, that's wrong. You should be buying everything. But I'm also happy with recasting weapon choices. So if I'm happy with recasting weapon choices, why am I not? Why doesn't it sit right with me where you recast 200 guardsmen so that you don't have to pay, you know, what are they, £20 a box or something stupid? I can't remember exactly how much a Imperial Guards infantry box is. Let's have a look. Imperial Guards infantry. I don't know if it's going to come up. Cadian shock troops, the same thing, isn't it? Oh, it's only £18. Yeah, so for 10, and you've got 200 of them. So theoretically, you would pay for 20. You should buy 20 boxes of those. 18 times 20 is whatever it is, but £360 to buy all 200 guardsmen, and so to save yourself that money, you've just recast the model. If you go to the effort of doing a whole army, then fair play, but I personally wouldn't do it, partly because if I tried, they'd look trash. When you're selling it for profit, I think that's the grey area. Imagine having to paint 200 guardsmen. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of money, but I mean, it's a hypothetical question in terms of, you know, at what point does it become stealing? You know, legally, you know, intellectual property. You know, if you copy it, you're stealing it, and legally, I don't know the law. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that even just by recreating a weapon option is technically illegal. However, you know, it's only, you'll only get charged for it if GW decide to pay the lawyers to charge you for copying a hand flamer from a Death Guard, a Death Company model. You know, it's not going to happen. And Green Stuff World sell the ability to recreate small, minute detail in blue stuff. Everybody does it. There's not a problem. But if we go down that train of thought of thinking, it's kind of like, at what point do you become? Is it pirating? You know. Because I mean, there is, and people will throw the example out there. It's no different than you lending a friend your CD and they rip it. Excuse me, they rip it to their computer and keep it on their computer for them to listen to. They're not selling it, but it's still piracy. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's intellectual property fraud. No, you're stealing the intellectual property. Yeah, it's a physical thing. You've copied it, and you're keeping it for personal use. I mean, if you do that, you get caught. Should you really be telling people you recasted parts if that's the policy? But this is the point. You know, if Games Workshop decided that, you know, me copying a hand flamer was warrant of fining me for it. To be honest with you, the fine that I would get wouldn't pay for their legal fees. So, you know, it's not, you know, and it probably would get thrown out. And to be fair, they look like trash, so I didn't use them. I just did copy them. But I mean, it's the same principle, you know? It is. It's the principle is there. So at what point does recasting become an issue? And I mean, it's an interesting thing. I don't know how I feel about it. I genuinely don't know how I feel. So yeah, I mean, my opinion is, yeah, I'd cast a few bits and pieces, or maybe, you know, for argument's sake, if you wanted an aerial to add to a Land Raider. I think GW know it's out there, and are probably not bothered. No, they're not. They're not bothered about individuals recreating, you know, a weapon option. You know, but by extension, is copying an entire sprue okay? And then by extension, can you then copy, if it's okay to copy a sprue, is it okay then to copy an entire army for personal use only? There is, and I think that's a long-winded way of me saying I have no idea how I feel about recasting. Now, of course, like I said, and I've said it at the start and I'll say it at the end, that recasting for profit to sell on is illegal, and I feel very strongly against that. So yeah, that's that's a little segue into recasting. Excellent. All right. So we can carry on that discussion. I'm just going to get on with some more work as well while we're at it. Dry brushing. So let me find a dry brush that I think is going to be suitable for what I want to do. And let's have a look what I've got around here. That one will do. If you sold it as a name GW Profit, I think that's a definite no-no. Yeah, that's true. But you also have copyright infringement as well. So by copyright infringement also includes a likeness of what you're selling as well. So if your guardsmen look like guardsmen, you can be done for copyright infringement as well. Which is why all of the third-party sellers, even though they sell, for argument's sake, Mephiston from Wargames Exclusive, it kind of looks like Mephiston, but it looks different enough to not be Mephiston. So I mean, yeah. So selling anything that looks like a named GW product is also copyright infringement. What am I looking for? I've got some paint I need to find. I need Admin Grey, I know that, that's the first one, and then Techless Blue is the other one that I need, if I can find it. Techless Blue, there we go. It is indeed all food for thought. Because, I mean, it's an interesting thought thing to, have a think about. Because we all know that we copy bits, we scratch build pieces. I mean, think about it. Technically, by law, scratch building your own Land Raider, if it looks like a Land Raider, you've breached copyright law. Because, and then if you sell it as a, well, more to the point, you can create a Land Raider out of plastic card that looks like a Land Raider for personal use is okay, but then if you then sell that scratch built Land Raider, you're breaching copyright because you're selling a likeness of a copyrighted product. So, and that's a whole, even that is a whole different kettle of fish. And when you turn around talk about scratch building stuff, we're not even talking about just blatantly recasting stuff. Then now you're actually making the effort into creating a brand new product from scratch, and there's a whole new set of laws that you have to consider there as well. I mean, it genuinely is. It's food for thought for sure, and it's not really something I've really spent that much time thinking about, to be honest, because I do just buy everything that I need. But that was a really good question, actually. I'm not sure how I'm going to fit that into an Ask Me Anything, so I'm not sure if it will actually appear in the Ask Me Anything or not. What is the time anyway? 20 to 11 already. Like I said, I might extend the video past 11 o'clock, depending on how the chat is and how I'm doing here. We'll just see what happens. I'll probably at least get the blue and the dry brushing done on these guys. Due to the next step on this guys is painting the red on the claws and the hooves and stuff, and I'm not going to start that tonight. It's certainly getting a bit late, but we'll see if the chat is if the chat's active. We might move on to something else for a little bit. I do have a Space Marine, a Guardsman Scout that needs finishing. He's almost finished. He'll be the third of the new kill team that I've got going on. But like I say, if you haven't already done so, make sure you've got your notifications set up on my channel to get notified whenever I go live, because if you like these kind of ad hoc shows and you're not really too fussed about the ones that I have every week, these ones won't have a schedule. It'll just happen when it happens. And so yeah, make sure you got your notifications set up so that I can so that you get to know when I'm live. Most of the time it'll probably be an evening, especially during half term as it is now, but yeah, occasionally I'll pop up during the day once the kids go back to school as well. So I don't know, people work during the day, but yeah, see what happens. What kill teams are I running? All of them. Almost. Now I've got I'm currently building a guard army. I have a kill team that is Gene Stealers, so they run as they're Tyranid Gene Stealers. I have the Admech and the Gene Stealer cults that came from the base game of Kill Team. So they're not very good kill teams, but you know, they're there. I have a Space Marine kill team, and I also have, by extension of collecting the Conquest magazine, I also have a Death Guard kill team. But as Wayne says, yeah, I do want all of them. Just generally to make our every other Tuesday live show become more entertaining, because Patreons get to choose what kill team I'm running. Just because Reese tends to just have her Tau and possibly Space Marines, and so to keep things interesting, I don't know what kill team I'm running when I do it. So I will eventually have as many kill teams as I could possibly muster, and then actually eventually I think my patrons will even be able to decide what my list is going to be as well, just to they can either stitch me up or help me win by how they want to build my kill team. So yeah, so that's what I've got coming in the future as well, because I do still need to buy the models and get them all painted up ready for the tabletop first. So stitch will up every time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. The only thing they won't be able to do is tell me how to play. So I'll get wise to their tactics, and they'll start trying to stitch me up, and I'll be like, haha, I learned to become a strategic genius. You give me a really weak kill team and I still win. Haha. Stitch went up for the win. Yeah, thank you very much. It will be for the win. I'll win beyond all. I'll be the underdog, and I'll beat the odds. I actually missed some of the carapace on this side. It's what happens when I'm talking instead of watching what I'm doing. But it certainly helps this time go as well. And this is what I like about the live shows. And I do say, you know, all of the subscribers that come along and they watch, you know, you really do help. Even just get my painting done. Because, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you guys and not even really, I am concentrating on what I'm doing, but I don't notice how long I'm sat here just dry brushing and doing the really tedious parts of the models. So all of a sudden I'll be talking to you guys and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I've done the black. Oh, okay, fair enough. Dry brushing is not just for noobs. Nope. Absolutely not. And I'm not going to keep bringing up the picture of the Seraphon priest. It is available on my Facebook page, I think. You can see it. I'm pretty sure it's there somewhere. I'm particularly happy with how that came out. Especially when I did the old one as well, I think. Is that what they're called? Oh no, that's what they are in 40k, isn't it? Old ones. I can't remember what it's called. Slan, that's it. Slan thing on a throne. Yeah. There's just no way I was going to layer that thing up. It's absolutely not going to happen. Wayne is on point with those links tonight. I'm working on some Wolfguard weapons and it's getting the better of me tonight. So many weapons. Yeah, that's I mean, that's again, I mean, it helps, you know, when you're kind of slightly distracted, especially if you know, this is it's kind of one of the reasons why I don't really keep the camera so close when I'm doing these particular shows, is because I know that this type of show is not really about what I'm doing. You know, you're not here to learn how to paint. Not really, not unless you actually had a specific question about how to paint. It's more here to have a chat and chill, which is why the camera's all the way up here. You can't really see what I'm doing because you're just chilling and chatting and you don't want the distraction. So, you know, doing these shows, people will say, oh, I just put you on in the background and you know, occasionally type a question or occasionally type a comment, but on the whole, put me on in the background and just I just generally just get on with whatever it is that you want to get on with, and that's why doing these shows, I really love doing these shows, because of that kind of interaction. You know, obviously the Thursday show is all about, you know, the project at hand and how am I doing it, because I often push myself a little bit for those shows. I'll do things I'm not really comfortable doing, because, you know, they're my models at the end of the day, and so I'll try something new and I'll push the boat out a bit. So I'm learning what blending, so I'll give that a go on a Thursday. Whereas doing this, I know what I'm doing here, I'm just getting on with it. talking about Space Wolf armies. Yeah, I wouldn't mind painting a Space Wolf. I think I've got a Wolf Lord knocking about here somewhere. I think I kit bash one together. That I think it's a Wolf Lord. Kit bash one together. I need to get a video done on how I would paint him, but yeah, we'll get around to doing that. Like I said, get rid of all these commissions, and then we'll start seeing a lot more projects on the go. A lot more videos happening. If only both models have got tons, you can spare a few. Yeah, we'll have a look. We'll see what happens. I often people keep saying, "Oh, I've got some models you can use." Yeah, I do appreciate it. We need to, like I said, I don't want to start accepting models and then not have time to paint everything. So yeah, we'll definitely have a think about what we can get done when we can get it done. Not particularly competitive, but you look forward to throwing some pups on the table. Absolutely. I have the same outlook there, Springs. I'm not a hugely competitive person, but you know, throwing some space vampires on the table can certainly be an enjoyable experience. Occasionally. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of 40k anyway at the minute, but there we go. And that thing has just gone from black to blue right before your eyes. Put this on here. I'll do the same thing with this guy. Chick paints did have some walls, yeah. I hated facing those in 7th edition. Before the Blood Angels kind of got competitive again. It's very, very difficult. Two close combat armies together in 7th edition was almost impossible, but it always felt like the Space Wolves had the best rules. And I also didn't have the models to actually combat her properly. I think I saw some wolf stuff on her Imperial IG, maybe. Imperial Guard? No, IG. Reese doesn't have Guard. Unless I'm reading that acronym completely wrong. You hate to agree, but you're a fun gamer and not a competitive gamer. No, I think that's the best way to play. At the end of the day, yeah, I'm not. I don't play to lose, but I'm certainly not. I don't sit there saying I'm having to win. There's nothing worse if you're that kind of player who just loves to play and just have some fun. There's nothing worse than being against somebody who just wants to win. It just sucks the fun out of it. What's the point if you're not fun? Ah, that's exactly it. Reese has some Imperial Guard on her Instagram. I'm gonna have to have a look. Not right now. I'm gonna have a look back. Oh no, she had some wars on her Instagram. Right, yes, of course. That makes sense now. Sorry, it's getting late. I'll get there eventually. You might have done. You might have seen some walls on her Instagram. I mean, she collected walls a long time ago. Before she even started painting Ultramarines, she was a wolf player. Reese has got lots of armies. Sometimes she'll just pick up an army just to paint. I think she even picked up Eldar at one point. Yeah, she's definitely blue to the core though. But yeah, she's 7th edition. Yeah, she played wolves back then. I think she might even still have some of the stuff knocking around. Actually, I don't know. I know she sold some of it. But yeah, I don't have a tag for her, but she is definitely a friend of the channel. At Chick Paints on Instagram. Now I know most of you here have already who are in the chat already probably following her, but if anybody in the future comes along this video, because it will be available to watch whenever, just stick me on in the background, check her out at Chick Paints on Instagram. And Wayne will no doubt stick my Instagram keyword in the chat as well. You can find me if you haven't already done so. Sprints is the axe and the chainsaw. I think I've got you on Instagram. I think I've seen you about. I have a lot of people on Instagram though, so some people tend to get missed. She gave you some of the wars. Oh, then fair enough. I don't know what she's got with all of them. I know that most of her tanks started out life as rust grey and has become Macragge blue. But yeah. Well, I managed to get those guys done. They are blue. I know I've just changed it and then shown it up on the camera. But there we go. Nice and easy. Followed. Thank you very much. Turns out, Springs, that I've already liked a few of your pics on Instagram. Now following. There we are. In this community, it's all about coming together and enjoying each other's company. Just generally sharing the love. So there we are. I don't know if I've got you on Instagram. I'd have to have a look. You don't have me on Instagram, Will. I thought Nuts Paints Minis was yours. Or is it the other one? I think that you've got two on Instagram, haven't you? Have I not shared either? Have I not liked them? I tend to forget a lot of the time. I get people will be on Instagram. They'll follow me, but I can't get around to following everyone else. So I know that I've got some followers on Instagram that I haven't followed back because eventually it becomes it. The funny thing is, the more people that I follow, the more people that follow me, and the more people that I then follow, the more likely is I'm going to actually miss people's stuff. So then people will talk about things that they've got on their Instagram. It's like I haven't seen it because I've got too many people. The minis is the one you use, yeah. So I know that I've got messages from you because you've got some pictures in the WhatsApp. So I've definitely got messages from you. That's the one. There we go. Oh, you're right, I hadn't actually followed you. There we go. There we are. Right. You can't find him on Instagram. Ah, you'll find each other. It's nuts_paint_minis. Nuts with a Z. Anyway. Yeah, I would say, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Because I did say I was going to do it. Because we're all talking about following each other on Instagram. Is that just before I leave the show tonight, and we've got the Tyranids, I've got those done. So we'll grab this guy here. The little Space Marine, I keep trying to say Space Marine, the Imperial Guard Scout that I've done. He is actually almost finished. I've got a bit of dry brushing to do on him, and then he's all finished, which is lovely. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to grab some Skaven like Dinge. Throw the Instagram link. Right, what I'm going to do, grab some Skaven like Dinge to start with, and then I'll grab some of this. I like snipers in Kill Team. Oh, you're longer than the range of my. You're longer than half the range of my sniper. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So one of the little tricks I like to do when I'm painting my minis is, as you can see, I don't do sub-assemblies as best as I can, and I've glued the mini down before putting the texture paint down, and before I painted the texture paint with some brown and some green wash to give it a bit of variation. And the other thing I do when I'm doing it, when I'm actually dry brushing the base, I will actually catch the feet of the miniature and also the base of the cloak here. And then what I'll actually do, that some people don't necessarily know, is to tone down some of the orange that I've got. Is I'll actually grab the base colour of the dry brushing, make sure it's really, really light, and I will actually go over the entire model with a little bit of this Skaven Light Dinge. Now I have done this with Space Marines using a Grelin Earth, not dry brushing with a Grelin Earth, but with Zandri Dust. So what that does is it ever so gently just coats the model with a little light dusting of the area around him, which just kind of ties him into his surroundings without being overpowering. And then what I'll do on top of that is then I will then come in with some Dawnstone, which I had to buy a new one because my Dawnstone was just completely knackered, so I had to go out and buy a new one. Completely dry painted, dried up. Which actually is really close to Admech Grey. I didn't know that. There we go. Not Admech Grey, it's quite close to Administratum Grey. And then we'll dry brush that over the top of this, around here. What we got? You know me, plus Patreon, there we go. I'm going to get some Imperial Guard snipers just because I want to paint them. Yeah, fair enough. You can only take one sniper in a Imperial Guard kill team, which is unfortunate. This particular sniper came out of the. Now, when I went out, you see, this is the thing. This is what I love about kill team is that you, and I say it every time I start talking about kill team, is you don't have to buy a huge amount of minis to play kill team. What I did the other day is I literally went out and I brought a box of Cadians, the infantry squad. I bought a box of Tempestus Scions, and I bought an Imperial Guard command squad. And out of that box, I have created a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. An 18-man kill team. And 2 commanders. One of which is the Scion, Tempestus Scion, and the other one is a platoon slash company commander. So I spent just under 40 quid on these models, just over 40 quid I think it was, and I have an 18-man kill team and 2 commanders with it to go. I managed to create every specialist I could, one of each specialist, and as well as a fire team of a bunch of infantry guardsmen. And I also was able to, like I said, create the two commanders. The only thing I now need to do, which I just snapped off his swords, which means I'm going to have to glue that back on. So that's the platoon commander, and that's the Tempestus Scion. The only thing I need to buy now is a commissar, and then if I wanted to, I can just build more variations of the specialists. Which of course, I mean, as always, I mean, keep an eye on the Instagram and Facebook pages and stuff, and you'll see those go up as they get done. I am trying my best to get all of my pictures posted when things are finished. I'm terrible at posting finished results. I do tend to remember to pop up whips occasionally and my adverts for my shows, but I often forget to actually post finished results. I think it took me 3 days to post up the Canoness when she was finished. Alright, so what I want to do now is I'm just going to grab some Steel Legion drab just to get some dust, and I'm going to really go along the bottom of this the cape, the bottom of this cloak. Now this was actually a you can actually find this video on Warhammer TV. Duncan did this about adding a bit of dry brushing to the base of a cloak of Steel Legion drab, and then what you can do is you go over it a couple of times at the base, and then what you can do is you can come in with a fresh lot of paint, wipe it off, then do the bottom again, and then go up a little bit. So then you've got, and this is how I do my fades when I'm dry brushing as well. This is how I layer up different fading with dry brushing, is that I want it to fade from dark up into almost nothing there. And so what I'll do is I'll go over the bottom again. So that's 2 coats there, but only 1 coat here. And then what you can do is when the paint is basically, I'm going over it a couple of times, and when the paint is almost gone, go up once more, which means there's almost absolutely nothing there. And then that's pretty much done there. And so if I bring that up, I will focus it properly in a second. The lighting isn't brilliant, but there we go. You can bring that up there, and you can see that it kind of fades up from filthy further up, and you can spend some time. I mean, I'm doing it live on a show, so it's difficult to get. I can spend a bit more time feathering this in, but you can see that it kind of fades from darker up to light, and that's basically how you use dry brushing to layer without actually having to layer. So there we go. And then once I'm happy with that, I am happy with that, we want to stick on his infrared or green, which will look good there. Green, no, green is on the gun, so I want to do a red lens. Have I been using my wet palette? I have tonight, but that's just because I've been storing my black on the wet palette, which is there. I haven't really needed to worry about. I mean, eventually, I mean, like I said, on my Thursday night show, I'm going to start practicing some blending, and I'm going to start whenever I get the ability, the chance to do so. I'll do some layering, some blending, and I'll probably start relying on my wet palette a lot more. On the whole, a wet palette really for me at the minute is just somewhere to store paint. It just means that I can store paint for longer than on a dry palette. I don't really utilize a wet palette to the best that it can possibly be utilized yet. That's why I do keep reminding people that, you know, I am only 3 years into a hobby. You think about how long it takes to learn skills. It takes a long time to learn a skill, and I'm only 3 years into it, so I've still got a lot to learn. So, you know, the things that I teach people are 3 years in the making at the moment. You know, it took me 3 years to learn out how to dry brush, but okay, 2 years to learn how to dry brush to the way that I do now. So, you know, I'm learning blending now, so give it a couple of years and I'll start doing blending on my channel probably, because I've taught everything I could possibly think to teach about dry brushing. I mean, the next thing obviously will be done is going to be edge highlighting, because again, I mean, Reese is a fantastic edge highlighter. I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, everything she does. But you know, I tend to not do it so much at the moment because of the amount of commission work I've been doing. It drives me absolutely insane edge highlighting everything. But when it comes to edge highlighting, I will move on to edge highlighting at some point on the channel. But I've also I'm not actually a fan of the edge highlighted look. So you might find that I might touch on edge highlighting on the channel, but tend to move off from it reasonably quickly. Because I prefer, you know, a lot of people will say that, you know, oh, I don't dry brush because it makes it look dusty. You know, dry brushing is too dusty, and it's kind of my preferred style. I prefer my models to have softer highlights, not quite as sharp as an edge highlight will give you, which again is the beauty of this hobby. Is, you know, there is no right and wrong way to paint a model. As long as you're happy with the result, you've nailed it. But I mean, I do appreciate some people might want to hear my thoughts on edge highlighting, so I will do it. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to make an effort to do it properly and not just say, oh, this sucks, and move on. So I do still have some things I need to practice. And blending will be great. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you guys will actually watch. This is what Thursday's all about. You will learn. You will actually watch me learn new things, and I have been practicing over the last couple of Thursday night projects with the War Games exclusive Imperial Deathlord. I did a bit of practicing with layering on that. Didn't quite nail it very well. I attempted a little bit with Gabriel Seth. There really wasn't much chance to do it for the Canoness, but Eisenhorn is going to give me an opportunity to practice as well. So yeah, I've been painting for years and still learning things from you. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Snap. Been painting on and off for nearly 30 years and I'm mediocre at best, but Will has improved my painting in just a few months. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. But I think I think my ethos when it comes, and oh, by the way, I've pretty much finished this guy now. There will probably be a picture up on Instagram tomorrow or when I've finished here. So yeah, keep an eye out on that. Let me change the what's it now because we're going to wrap up the show a little bit, but we can have a chat before we do. And what I was going to say is, let me get me a chair so I can put my feet up because it's comfortable. I think the ethos of the show is, I think there's a lot of pressure on people to make their painting amazing as quick as they could possibly make it. And on the whole, I don't think that that's very helpful. Now, we all share our work around, and we all can see everybody, and we can all appreciate that we are not going to be the best painters the second we pick up a brush. We have access to seeing every Golden Demon winners' models, all for show for everybody to look at and admire and aspire to, which is, I think, is a healthy thing. But I think recently there's been, not necessarily recently, but I think I've noticed it more recently, that there becomes a more pressure on people to paint like the heavy metal team. Do it the GW way, or do it this way. This is the correct way of painting. This is the wrong way of painting. And I mean, I think my philosophy on all of this is pretty much exactly the same as my philosophy on the Funko Pops. You know, you do you. You know, find how you find it comfortable to paint. And so when I started the channel, when I started showing people how to paint, I've chosen easy stuff. What is easy? Dry brushing is easy. But it's easy to dry brush your first highlight. That's easy. It also looks messy. It can do. And that's why, you know, my mantra on the chat is, you know, dry brushing is not just for noobs. You can push dry brushing to create good art, you know, essentially, because, you know, you can learn a skill and then push it to be as good as you can be. And that's why I keep bringing up my Seraphon Priest, because I think that, or more to the point, I think the slan that I did, not just the Priest was showing you the blend between green into yellow, but the slan that I did at the same time, that was me kind of pushing the dry brushing to the limit that I could push it. You know, I highlighted everything. I didn't have time to go through picking out scales and picking out various details in the way that he was, and I just pushed the dry brushing and I layered the dry brushing up and up and up and up and up. You don't need to just be layering your paints. You don't need to edge highlight everything if you're proficient at dry brushing. And that's not to say that you shouldn't be edge highlighting. But yeah, I think that's, you know, and that's what I'm trying to show people is, you know, do you. Whatever feels comfortable for you, you do it. I feel fine dry brushing. When I look at a model that I've just dry brushed, and that's the only thing I do, I look at it and go, yeah, that's good. Sometimes I make mistakes, but everybody does. But on the whole, I look at a model and go, yeah, I'm happy with the way that that has turned out. I'm happy with the result. So I don't need to edge highlight. So that's, yeah, that's the way it is. And I encourage everybody else to just paint the way you feel comfortable. You know, I've mentioned him before as Jimmy the Brush on Twitch. Him and his missus do lots of streaming on there, and they do not use they don't use washes. You know, they paint all of their shadows in before they paint the rest of the model, and they pretty much blend everything. I mean, it's just everything is blended, because it goes from the shadows up to the highlights, and it's blended perfectly well. And then occasionally they'll do a highlight on top of that. So, you know, you don't need to do it. Non-metallic metals, I don't like non-metallic metals. I don't like the look of it. It doesn't mean to say that anybody who does it is wrong. It's just, it's not me. It's not how I paint. So layering dry brushing is a skill within itself, and it's great. It does, and especially when you do it. But then again, you know, like I said, I mean, you know, Reese's stuff is going along here, and I think Nuts, yours is edge highlighted as well. It's not to say I don't like them. I love looking at other people's work, and some of the, you know, the heavy metal team, they've got some fantastic models. You know, the Space Marine stuff is edge highlighted within an inch of its life. It doesn't mean I look at it and go, I don't like it. It's just, yeah, it's just the way I do it. And I think we can all appreciate it, and I think that's what this channel is all about as well, is to appreciate the difference between, you know, your painting and my painting, and know that, you know, that's the way you do it. In fact, actually, your own personal way to paint. That's something, actually, I think somebody at the club, our local gaming club at the White Eagles, I think that, because I didn't realise it was somebody who I have, you know, orbiting the various circles that I have. He cell shaded, you know, like a comic, cell shaded his some orcs. On the surface, I don't like them. I don't like the orcs, but that doesn't mean to say that I can't look at it and appreciate what he's done with it, and to and see the quality of what he's done, you know. So yeah, there's a bit of a ramble for you. Dear. Oh dear, I do tend to ramble when it gets late, so but yeah, I think it's pretty good. Is there anything else we want to talk about, or are we going to end the show now? What day is it? It's Tuesday today, Wednesday tomorrow. Hashtag Will Rant. You see, I would love to, but I would hashtag. I mean, Will Rant. I would love to know what a response to that would be. Blah 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 would be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I do want to make some more commands, and like I said, I've always said, feel free to send up your suggestions. Daniel Grant, evening. Can't beat a late night ramble. Yeah, exactly. It's the best time to ramble because you've had all the day and your mind is just starts wandering wherever it wants to wander. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the way this stream went, to be fair. I know that Daniel Grant has just jumped in and said evening, but right at the end here. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the way it's been. And we'll do some more of these. I don't know when. Like I said, it's kind of a case of, yeah, they'll happen whenever they happen, really. So yeah, I do appreciate that. Wayne is throwing up all sorts of links for me in the roundup of the show. Sorry you missed it. Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, you could go back and watch all of it again. Like I said, if you subscribe to the channel and if you've got your notification bell pressed on, you'll get notifications when whenever I pop up. These ones, I mean, we have the Monday show, we have the Thursday show. They're not going anywhere. They're just a little bit later. But this is it'll just be, you know, they'll pop up occasionally. So thanks for doing the stream. Kept me going with this painting, mate. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you know, I've helped pass the time a little bit. I know that's the other thing is I know that, you know, painting can become a bit of a drag, and especially, you know, like doing the black on those Tyranids, it can get a bit of a drag. So you know, so I'm glad I've helped you do your painting. I genuinely mean that. Okie dokie, guys. Well, thank you for joining me. I've forgotten all of the names that came up through the chat. I knew it was going to happen eventually, but I've forgotten. But I'm at work, so it's hard to watch sometimes. That's fair enough. But feel free to watch them, you know, whenever you're free. And if you catch me, you know, when I'm live, that's excellent. But I'm about to go hit Discord now, so feel free to jump and find me over there. I will say thank you all for joining in. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you all for watching this one. I'll catch you in the next one, alright? Ta-ra. Oh, and I'll grab the mouse.